Join 14,000 SCARS certified members in Bermuda, and you can help reduce the risk of childhood sexual abuse. Become an advocate and a voice for our children. Get trained, get certified. We offer community and private sessions. Visit scarsbermuda.com to register for training. You'll also find valuable information and resources on our website. Visit scarsbermuda.com. Get certified today. SCARS, saving children and revealing secrets.
Welcome to SCARS Survivor Hour. Thank you for joining us. SCARS, which stands for Saving Children and Revealing Secrets, is a 1-hour cable TV show where silence is broken, awareness is raised, and the topic of child sexual abuse is discussed from the lens of a survivor. Debbie Ray Rivers, a survivor and a passionate advocate for child protection and prevention, is the founder of SCARS, a Bermuda nonprofit whose mission is to reduce the risk of child sexual abuse and to be an advocate and voice for children who have been sexually molested, as well as their affected family. On set with Debbie is Dr. Alicia Hancock, a clinical psychologist with decades of experience in child sexual abuse and a valued SCARS board member. Child sexual abuse thrives in silence, betrayal, and deception. SCARS brings these difficult and necessary conversations into the light. Through powerful conversations with industry experts, advocates, and voices that matter, it challenges us all to think differently, act responsibly, and help survivors know that they are not alone. And now, here's your host, Debbie Ray Rivers.
A big welcome to all of our viewers this evening. Thank you for taking your time to join us on SCARS Survivor Hour. Surviving child sexual abuse can be a lifelong journey because children who experience child sexual abuse are left with emotional wounds from their lived experience. Survival responses vary from survivor to survivor. What we have learned over the past decade is that survivors suffered from a wide range of emotional, physical, and psychological consequences stemming from their experience. It could be depression, fear, anger, relationship struggles, promiscuity, perfectionism, social isolation, and even suicidal ideation. Some carried the effects of trauma within their bodies, like chronic back pain and headaches. And for some survivors, it's a battle with addiction. The wounds from child sexual abuse can affect each survivor of abuse differently. It depends on the level of abuse, the relationship to the perpetrator, the age of the survivor when they were sexually molested, and the length of time the abuse continued. It could be the response from the adults in their lives, that could affect them, and the support or lack thereof that they received when they were abused. Supporting a survivor through their journey of healing is critical in their fight for freedom. And tonight, we are going to shed a light on the painful realities of addiction and trauma. Our hope is to provide support to those who walk the journey with survivors who struggle with addiction. We want to help them to better help the loved ones in their life. Our hearts are grateful to have on our show tonight a brave and beautiful soul who persevered, overcame, turned her pain into purpose, and who will share why support is crucial in the fight for freedom. No one understands this journey more than someone who has lived it. Dr. Hancock and I are grateful to have Mickey Parfit at our table once again. She understands firsthand the realities that survivors endure. Also at our table is a man of incredible wisdom with a caring heart. Dr. Ernest Peets Jr. is the co-founder and therapist of MASK, which stands for Counseling for Men by Men. MASK is a safe, welcoming space where males of all ages can go to be heard, to be guided, and to be supported. Dr. Peets specializes in marriage and family therapy, therapeutic crisis intervention, substance abuse, addiction support and recovery, and career and vocational assessments for youth and adolescents. Thank you both for joining us. We're really grateful. I want to start with you, Mickey. Share with the audience, because I know firsthand that you have, walked through pain, you've faced battles, and you have understood the importance of support. And so can you share with our audience a little bit about you and your connection to Dr. Peets?
Oh, boy. Dr. Peets. I've known Dr. Peets for about 18 years now. Yeah. He came into my life. I was a member of drug treatment court, and Dr. Peets was my probation officer.
Wow.
For, I want to say about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, probably about right.
Yeah. And, during that time, I had a lot of interactions with Dr. Peets, some good, some bad. And maybe a few years after then, he officiated my wedding.
Oh.
Which I celebrate 10 years next week.
Wow, congratulations.
And he is now my mentor as I'm striving to be a counselor and a trauma specialist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about purpose and pain. A shining example. Let's get right into it. I mean, what role do you think shame plays when it comes to being a survivor and struggling with addiction?
Oh my goodness. Shame keeps people obedient. It keeps you quiet, isolated. It keeps you, even within yourself, it keeps you feeling some way about yourself. Like, you're afraid to reach out for help. You're ashamed, embarrassed to reach out for help, to let people know, like, what's really going on, behind the scenes. It even teaches you that you're sometimes not even worthy of help, that you should be so ashamed or so embarrassed that you don't deserve help. So don't reach out for help. So shame plays a huge part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's almost like double trauma.
Yeah.
It's the shame from the abuse.
Yeah.
And then the shame for your coping skills, right? How you have to just survive.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, because I haven't had to suffer that, but through that, but I've had to support somebody who did, and it's difficult. Was there a time in your life can you remember a time in your life when you felt seen instead of judged, or not feeling that feeling of shame where you were finally able to be heard and seen?
When I met my husband. Yeah, when I met my husband. Still to this day is my best friend, I think that's why we connected. He was no judgment, just like probably one of the first people ever in my life to ask me, like, what happened to you? What's going on? Instead of sitting back and judging me. So yeah, my husband, Pete is also one of them.
Thank you.
And one of my oldest siblings. Yeah.
Wow. So people that led with care.
Yeah, people that led with care and genuinity first. It's one thing when people aren't genuine, you can feel that energy, right? You can feel that. So that's probably one of my core strengths, values.
Right, because that could even keep you more silent.
Yeah, it's the judgment, and if you're not being genuine, then they can feel that, and that people respond to things differently. So
yeah. So your rock.
Yeah,
he's been your rock.
Yeah,
both.
Yeah, Pete's,
Dr. Peets, and
my husband and my sister.
The three of them.
Yeah.
So Mickey, how did the addiction become connected to your childhood trauma? Where did you find that connection where it realized there was a connection?
Well, definitely there's a connection between addiction and trauma. For myself, wasn't so much of taking the pain away or anything. It was escaping. It was a way of being a part of something. My childhood was, as I've told my story before, I didn't have very nurturing parents. And so that's how my abuser slipped in, was seeing the fact that I needed love and attention and nurturing. And so, once that phase of my life was over, and I'm 18 years old, a young mother, and I'm going through some stuff with my son, and, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking for people to relate to, people to be with, people that will accept me as I am, people that I can talk to about with some of the things that's going on in my life. And, those people were probably in the same space that I was in.
Right.
And so we found drugs together, and those drugs played a huge part. 13 plus years of my life in drug addiction. So escapism, not even just forgetting,
Right.
just forgetting, you know, just like I can't think of anybody that's, you know, using drugs consistently and is thinking of their trauma the whole time. You know, that would probably be the one big thing is just forgetting. For that, however long I could forget, you know, but it's that vicious cycle because when I come back down to earth, I got to remember and feel all of that again, right? And so I want to get away from that. So I'm going to use again, right? And so I'm going to keep on doing that because that feeling of reality, you know, of like, this is where I'm at. I see other kids, 19, 20 years old, going to college, getting their first bikes, having good jobs, you know. And then there's me and I'm just, you know, kind of struggling, you know, nobody's really paying attention to me. So the drugs filled a void of attention and love and being a part of something and forgetting and, you know.
It also shuts down the sympathetic nervous system. So essentially the fight or flight.
That fight or flight is
constantly in, it shuts down. It helps you to feel calm, at least for temporarily.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Mickey, what do people misunderstand the most when it comes to supporting a survivor who struggles with addiction? What do you think that is?
I think the number one thing for myself is, like you said, people trying to fix you. You know, it's not a place of, you know, we're not here to fix anybody, first of all. You know, it's about supporting that person unconditionally and showing them the love and the safety so that they can kind of, you know, gain that inspiration and that motivation and that safety and calmness to try to, you know, maybe start on that journey to recovery, whatever that is, you know. It's you know, I personally feel outside of my profession, you know, that recovery, you know, is, just lost my train of thought. Yeah, sorry about that.
No. Okay.
That happens. It's gone.
That's okay.
Yeah.
When I think about addiction, I think about perseverance for the person who's struggling and patience for the person who's supporting them.
Definitely.
2 P words.
Yeah.
Dr. Pete, share with our audience your wisdom around this and the best way that loved ones in the life of a survivor who's struggling with addiction, how can they help a person in their life?
Well, first of all, thank you, you know, for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for sharing. And, you know, some of the things Mickey is sharing is very personal, and I can see how we can get choked up a little bit about that. I guess to answer your question, you know, one of the things I've probably learned over the course of my career is that we can't fix anyone. Our job as clinicians and professionals is actually to support them. You know, so early on, I had to sort of come to this realization that the important work is actually what the client or the patient does. And my job is not to fix them. Now, there's a lot of pressure for that because, you know, sometimes the court mandated, sometimes the patient or client themselves are asking us to fix them. But that's not really the case. You know, our job is to come alongside them and to support them because ultimately the work in which they do is the work in which they own. So I've learned that over the course of my career. It takes patience. It takes a belief that people are far more resilient than they appear to be at times, and that the process typically isn't linear.
Right.
We wish it was linear, but particularly when we're talking about addiction and trauma, you know, the road to recovery has ups and downs. It has forward momentum and sometimes some relapses.
Right.
And, you know, so the support system that's providing treatment has to accommodate and adjust itself so that it's there for the long haul of the journey for the person finding recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Dr. Hancock, you and I have had many conversations. Thank you, Dr. Peets, because it's hard. It's really hard. It's harder on on the survivor. That journey is so difficult in and of itself, and then add addiction to that. And it's really about providing the people in that person's life with the tools to help them so that we don't cause, unconsciously cause them to go backwards, right? And they need support too, the family members in the life of a survivor.
Yeah, so like usually the supporters, they just want their loved one to feel better, to be better. And, so that can cause a lot of haste and come on, let's go, we're going to do it, and can cause them to just want to take over and, just take complete control. And when you do that with a survivor or with somebody who's struggling with addiction, you're basically reminding them that they're powerless, that they don't have any control, and then you add the sexual abuse component.
Yep.
And you've got layers and layers then of that survivor maybe shutting down at that point.
Yeah.
So it's very much trying to balance the idea of providing some choice and control to a participant in the treatment, not just the support system jumping in to do everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because I've been on both sides of it, and it's tough as someone who's supporting someone who's struggling, because you want to be compassionate, and yet you can't change the situation. You have to be patient.
Yeah.
And that's why the work that you do, Dr. Peets, in supporting survivors is so important, because I'm sure survivors who struggle with addiction just want to go back to what feels safe and and comfortable and what they have control over, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I first started out in the early 2000s, there wasn't a lot of training that I had access to that was exposing me to the trauma side. So I was getting lots of good information and training on how to deal with the addiction side, for example. But I would imagine as a professional, over this last decade or so, this push around trauma-informed care has actually been really, really helpful for us as clinicians, given the services which we need to provide to the people who actually need it the most. So that's actually been something that's been growing for us, and I'm really, really glad. So part of our conversation today is actually on just educating the public, but also educating ourselves about how addiction and trauma, how those two trains actually sort of keep a certain trajectory, and then how to figure out how to treat them. Because addiction has lots of issues. Trauma involved in that just makes that whole process far more intricate, far more difficult.
Yeah, and support has to be one of the most important things that person needs from the clinicians and the people who are trained, but also from the people in their lives. Like, don't give up on them. You're not going to be able to fix them. And I know from a workshop that I went to as someone who was supporting someone with an addiction, when we first arrived at the workshop, they asked us, why are we there? And I wanted to make sure I didn't say the wrong thing, so they would cause them to relapse. Somebody else wanted to make sure they cooked the right thing. And we all had a reason why we're there. Why can't they just get over it? And it's really, we had to take a step back and think about what best can we do to support this loved one in our life. And they described it in terms of animals. And so, and I identified with the jellyfish, fix, rescue, save, and some could be an ostrich, head in the sand, oh, nothing's wrong. It's hard for a supporter, someone who's supporting a survivor, to know what is the best way I can support this if nobody teaches us, if we're not the people in the life of a survivor and someone who's struggling with addiction, if we don't know we probably also need training as well, and the family needs help, right? Is that a part of the healing, is bringing the family in to help them?
So initially, in the beginning, everyone may be pushing towards this whole idea that the person who's suffering or the family that's suffering needs to be rescued. But really what really makes it work is not actually trying to rescue the individual or rescue the family. It's actually to empower the individual
Yes.
so that they find the strength to do their own recovery.
Yeah.
And also to empower the actual family around the process around healing, as opposed to fixing it or trying to rescue them.
Right.
And so that's really where the magic happens, I think.
Yes.
And you don't develop confidence by somebody just doing things for you.
No, not at all.
You know,
During that recovery process, you know, the empowerment piece is so big, you know, hence empowerment, because you're literally like, you know, everybody's so focused on what's wrong. So you're now kind of bigging that person up and saying, well, yeah, listen, you're resilient. You've gone through this, and you're like, I believe in you. You can, you know, so that empowerment piece is so big.
It's
you know,
huge.
it's not about pointing out what's wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's hard on a family who's,
Of course.
you know, because, you know, sometimes, and this is where, when being a parent, it's like, I love you no matter what. No matter what you say to me when you're struggling, I still love you. You know, and that's hard to get to when you've maybe been told, you know, sometimes when you're in addiction, you do things you don't, from what I've experienced, you say things you don't mean, it's not you. You do things that you would never normally do. And the person on the other side, it's really teaching us how not to take it personally, you know, not to judge them on that, because it's not them. A lot of times it's the addiction, right? That's causing them to do the things that hurt us as the loved ones of survivors who struggle with addiction.
yeah. So imagine too, you have to dismantle the belief system that the family has created, as well as all the emotions that have, you know, emerged as a result. Because it can be very easy to just be angry at this person, rather than not assuming that they just decided one day to pick up a drug and start using it without there being an underlying issue.
And the unfortunate piece, you know, when it comes to trauma seems to sort of reinforce that negative idea around belief. So guilt is probably easy to understand. I did something wrong. Shame is more like, I am wrong. And then how do you change that belief that I am wrong?
Yeah.
I could be something different. I could be something better. I can be who I was meant to be.
Yes.
Shifting their identity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And figuring out the root cause, right? Of why did I get to this place that I'm at? And it, like you said, it doesn't identify me. And then really, it requires help. We can't heal on our own. And the support and the family members who are supporting them need that as well. They need that guidance because they're just reacting.
Yeah. And if the survivor, for them, it's, you know, if I'm still here, I still have a purpose.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. What helped you start trusting people again, Mickey? Because I'm sure that's a big part of it. We know that sexual abuse, 90% is somebody we know or trust. And so our trust is taken from us. It's hard to trust after you've been
For sure.
wounded from child sexual abuse from someone that you cared about and trusted, and people in your life loved and trusted. How do you get that trust back?
Jeez, that's a big one, because betrayal's been a constant theme in my life, right? So maybe within the last couple of years, I can honestly say I started trusting people. Even when it came to my husband, it was, you know, just like, are you sure you want to be with me? Like, I didn't even trust that. I'm like, men, you know, I didn't have such a positive opinion of man at that point and stage in my life. And I was just like, you know, show me.
She questioned, you know, why?
Yeah, I did.
Why are you with?
Yeah, why are you with me? Why, you know, I didn't trust it.
Yeah.
You know?
Self-worth.
Yeah, I didn't trust it at all. Now I trust it, you know, but, you know, my husband had to show me, Pete's had to show me, my sister had to show me. Those are like, you know, my one friend had to show me, you know what I mean? And even through those relationships, you know, it's been ups and downs of like, you know, especially friendships, you know, how that plays a big role in my friendships and the trust I have in other people, of whether they accept me as I am or not. Like, do you truly like me as I am, or are you just here because everybody else is here? Trust is still a big issue in my life. Hence, like, I have my network and that's it. I don't have a whole bunch of friends and things like that. I know that has to do with also some abandonment issues that I face as well, but it's still growing.
Yeah.
It's still growing because, in addiction, we're talking about friendships and intimate relationships. You're talking about employers and people that have pointed fingers at you and you knew that they've judged you before and now they want to smile in your face because you got to work in the same environment as them or something like that. So it is. And then you've had employers that will, if they can get away with it, pay you the absolute least that they need to pay you because of where you're coming from, So, trusting that you have meaningful employers or meaningful employment and honest employers is so it goes right down the line from people that you deal with in any type of environment, especially me trying to be, or not trying to be, but being a professional, and now crossing that and kind of, having to take people at face value. So it's something that's still growing.
Yeah, it's a journey.
And it is a journey, and I'm very cautiously optimistic about it. Yeah.
Well, and that's why I anticipate too that, you're through the journey, you're constantly anticipating being judged, or there's a motive behind somebody's, behavior towards you.
Yeah.
So the defensiveness is there kind of all the time.
Still after all these years, I still feel it. And very much so,
There are multiple systems that are trying to heal.
Yeah.
And if we just break it down in just, sort of the easiest way, the physical side of trauma heals faster and has its own way of recovery. The emotional trauma associated with physical trauma has a separate healing process, and the pacing around that is not the same.
Yeah.
So it's very, very easy, and particularly in a community like ours, that the physical trauma gets healed faster.
Right.
So I appear healed.
Yeah.
So my employment, my housing may return, and it gives the appearance that maybe I've done all of the work. But inwardly, there's still some issues that still need to be worked through.
Yeah.
Mickey's story is actually 18 years in the making.
Right. Think about that.
How do you explain that on day one?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It takes time.
Yep.
Yeah.
It takes time, and it takes empathy and compassion from people in our life to understand that we have had pain. There's wounds there that takes time to heal. And that's why support is so key. It's so key that we provide the tools to the people who are supporting to help them understand. Because even in friendships, if you've never dealt with addiction, you have no clue what addiction is like.
Yeah.
You really have no clue of that journey. Our family had no clue. We did not know what that was. I was clueless. But the one thing I knew, I was not giving up.
Yeah.
I was not going to give up, and continue to hold that hope, and allow her to not give up. There's no way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge part, isn't it? Because sometimes I think with addiction, and not intentionally, but people can just get tired. And that's why they need lifting up to say, I have to just give my hats off to your husband, because that's the most important thing when it comes to addiction is the people in our life cannot give up on our survivors who suffer with addiction. Don't give up on them. And I understand that it takes patience and it takes perseverance. But tell yourself these C's. I didn't cause it. I can't change it. I can't control it. As a supporter of somebody who's supporting somebody who's a survivor of sexual abuse struggling with addiction, I can't cure it, but I can care. All those C's. Didn't cause it, can't change it, can't control it, can't heal it, can't cure it, but I can care. And provide that unconditional love and support because they need that.
Yeah.
Right?
I just want to touch on the part about people getting tired, that, supporters can get tired. I was in and out of recovery and relapse for about 8 years, through 2 pregnancies. My husband had to be a single father, single income provider, you know. And yeah, he got tired, you know, but he had support, you know. He had Dr. Pete's number, you know. I've seen times Dr. Pete's has been at my house and I ain't even there, you know. He's had to have sessions. He's probably even had to have some hard conversations that I didn't know of then, but I know of now.
Wow.
You know, where, you know, but it's right. It's you know, it's Dr. Pete's given, you know, really supporting my then partner, boyfriend, you know, is saying like, you know, you can't enable Mickey. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to have some boundaries, you know. You gotta think about your children first, you know. But also providing that support, you know. So between, you know, my husband and Dr. Pete's and my sister and my husband, like they all kind of, you know, my sister and my husband, you know, communicated with each other as well as Dr. Pete's and my husband, and they kind of, you know, that was his community with regards to, I've seen my husband come to NA meetings with me. He knew the 12 steps before I did. He could call me still today on the steps. He can call me today on the principles, on the foundations of NA.
Wow.
You know, he dug right in. You know, he came to drug treatment court when time allowed him. You know, it became very consuming, I'm sure, in his life. You know, aside from everything else
Was dealing with
that he had to deal with. You know, and the trauma that imposed on my husband, because, you know, we have to be aware of that as well, that, you know, there's also a reciprocal side of that, you know, that I'm hurting, but I'm hurting him too, you know.
Wow.
So it's you know, having education, so having that NA support. For me, it was Narcotics Anonymous. For other people, it could be anything else, but that's why community is so important, and being able to have even the supporters having support.
That's what I was going to say.
You know?
That
Yeah.
the supporters need support.
Of course,
And
of course.
supporters, you know, we're not obviously we advocate for self-care, but we're not always the best
Yeah.
at taking care of ourselves. But, you know, I'm glad, you know, to hear the story today. Self-care, if I didn't take care of myself properly, the issues that I deal with every day, it will have a way of, what's the word? Not just rubbing off on you, but sort of not minimizing. What's the word I'm looking for? Sort of. I may start thinking and feeling
Doubting,
the work that I'm doing is
doubting yourself.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, doubting yourself.
because the road to recovery is not just a long road, but you know, it's as I mentioned earlier, you know, it's certainly not linear. And without self-care, what happens is, you know, I become disillusioned about the work in which I'm doing, and that will affect my ability to actually provide, you know, unconditional positive regard for the clients in which I work with.
Yeah.
And so conversation today and actually seeing Mickey today, it's like being vaccinated all over again. You know, so I feel like, you know, alive, and I feel encouraged.
Yes.
And I wonder if I can go back in time and meet myself 18 years ago, sort of tell him, hey, look, you know.
It's
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because self-care is critical
Yeah.
for those who are supporting,
Yeah.
right, in your fields
Yeah.
of helping people.
I've considered walking away from this field more than once. You know, maybe I should have went into investment banking, or maybe go do a law degree.
Yeah.
But
It's the long-term reward, you know, when you're working with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at this, 18 years later. And
Yeah.
I mean, hats off to you, Dr. Peets. Really, I mean,
my support system has been taking care of me too. So
yes, no, exactly. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Right? We all need support in our life. And so, you know, from the perspective of a mentor and a clinician, what advice would you give to families trying to support the loved one in their life who's working hard to recover from both child sexual abuse and addiction?
So healthy boundaries, you know, get some help yourself. And so the family's recovery can run parallel to the person who's trying to find recovery for themselves.
Right.
And try to maintain this idea and belief that we can recover.
Yes.
And it takes some work and takes some belief, but it can happen.
Yeah.
I imagine that consistency is important too, the
Yeah.
consistent responses from
Yeah.
supporters to the client.
No.
Yeah. I mean, this workshop that I went to, I just want to quickly describe some type of supporters, and those out there listening to today, this evening, those out there listening, I would think about what kind of supporter you are, right? So I already said I'm a jellyfish. Fix, rescue, save, feel responsible, overly sensitive, self-blame, right? And always accessible. Okay.
Right.
And some could be, like I said, an ostrich, bury your head in the sand. It's nothing wrong. All's good. Our family's fine. And their avoidance may cause them not to reach out for help
Yeah.
because it's like, we're okay. We're all good here. And it might also isolate them from their family and friends because what if people find out? And then another extreme supporter would be a kangaroo. Kangaroos draw in and overprotect their loved ones. They find themselves accommodating the demands of the person, of their loved one, right? And protecting them from any upset or mishap. They may, the downside of that person is that the person they're trying to protect won't learn from how to take those challenges on, right? And gain their own independence.
Yeah.
And then the other extreme supporter is a rhino. Rhinos try to control everything and they take over too much direction because of the stress and frustration they're going through. Tempers get hot, right? And they try to change the person by getting mad and charging with arguments. They might want to force the person to understand and respond to logic. But when you're suffering with addiction, that's really difficult to do that in that moment, right? And so they create fear instead of change or attachment.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just stop. If it was that easy.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard that also.
Have you?
I bet.
Yeah, so this is all familiar, right, Dr. Peets?
Family members.
Yeah, from the family members. That's exactly.
And they may take on some of those different roles.
Yes. Sometimes they're a rhino and sometimes they're a jellyfish, right? And it's not putting down our those who are supporting our survivors who struggle with addiction. It's saying, it's really trying to learn, how can I be the best supporter for somebody who's really struggling? And so the ideal animal for supporting survivors is a dolphin. They describe dolphins that swim alongside the person. They nudge their loved one to safety instead of trying to force him or her. Dolphins coach and gently persuade. They may swim ahead or they may swim alongside. And when the loved one is making progress on his or her own, the dolphin may simply just swim behind. Like, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm here.
I come across kangaroos all the time.
I bet.
Yeah, close second is a rhino.
Really
Yeah.
angry, right? Because especially if you're a supporter who also has had trauma and have control issues.
Yeah.
So, of course, you as a supporter, like, I can do this, I can control this, like, I'm going to change them.
Until you
Well,
get
especially
it.
if you've never dealt with your own trauma, you have developed an ability to adapt to the trauma being a part of your life.
Exactly.
Believe that just your ability to function and survive is living, and it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then you're dragging all of that and you're trying to come fix this person.
Yeah.
And you're still got your, stuff that you're dealing with. And it's like,
So true. And I mean, it's almost like you have to take a course in how to be a supporter of somebody who's struggling.
Yeah.
Because you want to help yourself too, and you want the best for them.
Yeah.
But it's understandable. This is not judgment. It's like saying it's okay not to know how to support someone who is struggling, right? And so we need help too. And then the other ideal one was the Saint Bernard,
oh,
the dog.
Okay.
While being overwhelmed at first, over time, they can adopt the calm and steady nature of the big, lovable dog,
Okay.
right? When this happens, they become caring, consistent, available, and nurturing. Although it may seem hard and the situation may seem frightening and dangerous, you too can learn to respond in that way. A humble and helpful Saint Bernard seeks out the lost loved one, is a good listener, and provides empathy to help with the struggle.
Okay.
I think a component that's really important as we talk about the relationships is, the relationship between the supporter and the survivor, and as well as just how does the survivor perceive the relationship with you? If you want to support, but you have to kind of understand how this person will receive you if you try to support. Otherwise, if you have a different experience from, then, it could backfire.
Yeah.
I mean, our responses are critical in the life of a survivor who struggles with addiction. For the supporter, our responses are very critical, right? But it's also putting up the boundaries. It's also, but it's tough. It's a tough situation. I mean, I was a jellyfish, I have to say, and I was a kangaroo, but I'm learning to become a dolphin and a Saint Bernard, right?
Sure.
It takes time.
I think the part about being with is probably the most important part, with the support, with the dolphin that you're talking about. It's being able to, like you said, be with that person, kind of taking your shoes off and putting your feet in the shoes, and like, if this had just happened to me, how would I feel? And that's where we develop, the empathy, not pity, because we don't want pity.
No.
We don't want sympathy, feeling sorry for. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me, or I don't want you to, but.
Because you can get stuck.
Yeah.
Stuck.
At that point, you're probably a little angry, so the pity and the other things doesn't have a place, and it's like,
You're not going to hear that.
No, I'm not gonna so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what does freedom look like, for someone who's healing from both child sexual abuse and addiction? Is that a big one?
It is a big one, and maybe another conversation particular, for some of the men that I've worked with over the years, the pace of their recovery has been a lot slower.
Right.
And the real part of their healing journey, which takes the longest, is just getting to the point where they feel safe enough to even admit it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I honor you for starting that organization, to give them a place.
Right. And even if they get to the point where they can admit it, it still takes a while for them to actually be willing to do something about it. But they hang on to that secret for forever.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Why do you think it is? What is the difference between, if I could ask you, between, a female survivor, because you've dealt through your parole board, and a male, like, why is that so tough for men?
I can try to offer maybe a characterization. So men are generally problem solvers. We like to fix things. And when we take a look at this problem, and I take a look at what's in my tool shed, I can't fix this.
Right.
So we just leave it.
Yeah.
We try to live around it. We try to contain it, mask it.
Because there's no logical or
Right.
practical way to fix it.
Right.
It requires the emotional part.
Right.
Wow.
That may be an simpler way of explaining it, but that's the best I can do
You did a great job on that. I think that's very clear.
Yeah.
And that's why it takes men.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I think, right? Because a woman's not going to, it's hard for a woman to understand that, really, don't you think? A little bit, like,
Of course.
I mean, we could do it, they can do it, women can do it, but I think from a man, I mean, he gets it.
Yeah.
And then maybe part of it's society's expectations that, and grooming men into a particular role that they're supposed to play. And so, breaking down barriers of emotion is, and especially if you haven't been conditioned to do that from start.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. There's a
a
disparity between little boys and little girls regarding their emotional vocabulary. So,
Correct. Yeah.
and that disparity just gets worse as they get older. So by the time a man reaches maturity age-wise, his emotional vocabulary is
Good.
very, very blunted.
Yeah.
They're like,
He's either mad
yeah.
or fine.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. What does freedom mean to you today, Nikki?
Choice.
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 Wow.
Yeah. Very simple choice. Before, I didn't have the choice to live the way I wanted or choice for a lot of things. So, yeah, I am very happy to have the choice to be able to decide for myself now, to make rules and decisions for myself, my freedom, how I choose to live my life, how I choose to raise my children, use my voice. It's a choice.
Trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Choice. Because when you're little,
Yeah,
you don't have
that.
choices.
You don't have that choice, and from being sexually abused, my entire childhood, and then going into addiction. And I mean, I'm just, going from one space of, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is how you're supposed to be, and blah blah blah, to drugs, which consume your everything. They take your choice for everything away. And even that recovery part, like I'm giving myself fully to whatever it is, whatever tool I use to take myself out of addiction, active addiction, right? So for me, it was Narcotics Anonymous, but having that choice and
yeah. And having people around you that understand what that feels like.
Yeah.
Right? A whole team almost, of people that get it, understand you.
And when they weren't willing, when they didn't understand, they were willing to learn. I was so proud of Pete when he came and told me he was learning these steps. He probably one of the only, now today I guess it's a common practice or whatever, but I just noticed me being a client of his back then in drug treatment court and observing everybody, and and it's like, and then now I have my probation officer telling me what the 12 steps are, and I'm like,
wow.
check you,
Wow.
But it's probably one of the only people I've known that have gone that far to say, oh, I'm going to refer you to this program. Let me check this out and see what it is. Oh, you're coming back to me. You're going to tell me something about I'm going to learn so that you're not going to come and, because it was all sorts of tricks and stuff happening back then,
we
right?
can't take this lightly. Do probation officers do 12-step programs when
sure
it comes?
they do now.
They probably do, right? Is that part of their, do you think that's part of their?
No. Okay.
Yeah, something I chose to do.
Yeah.
Wow. And that may be something that we should look at.
Advocate for.
Is, for probation officers, and maybe they do. I really don't know.
I think it's an individual.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's that individual's own passion, and and I think that's what drew me to Pete, was because like he's coming across, and he never once gave me this impression like I know it all, like you're gonna do what I tell you to do or anything. It was never that type of communication or nothing. Like I'm up here, you're done here. Like It was never any of that. So like when, obviously we're having our interactions and he wants to know like what's happening at the meetings and stuff like that. And I'm telling him and he's like, and he started learning about it. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pull one over on Pete's, like,
Right.
because there's all sorts of things happening, but yeah, he crossed his T's and dotted his I's with me because, it took a lot of patience and work and,
well, that's authentic support. That's authentic support.
Yeah.
Because he had to get into your world and learn what it is that you need through a step program to recover, for recovery, right?
Yeah.
And so you're able to also hold accountable, but also, learn what you need to do to help her with that. I honor you for doing that because not too many people even think to do that.
No.
Right? Let me. I'm talking about addiction, where it comes to, because there are addictions in drugs, there are addiction in eating disorders, alcohol,
everything.
And so learning
Everything. Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
What is it that we can do if these steps work?
Exactly.
As a probation officer, I want to know what that looks like so that I can best support. Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's authentic.
And if you don't develop a relationship with the survivor, the addiction addicted individual, then you're probably not going to you're going to get a guarded response, especially if you just see it as law enforcement versus law enforcement with emotional support.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was taking some of that out of it, and just like I'm here with you, I'm learning these steps as well, Same thing with my husband. Like, you can't, your first step says, Mickey, like, I can't tell you how many times, first step says that you're powerless over your addiction. Like, you can't control it, you can't manage it or anything like that. I don't know how many times I had to be told that, but that's kind of like how we use that knowledge and say, like, hey, remember, like, like, yeah, it says you're powerless, that your addiction is unmanageable,
Right.
So,
Right.
learning how to utilize the information that I'm gaining on a daily basis, because,
Yeah.
And
that has to be tough because the first trauma is sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And so you're powerless as a little girl, right? We, as a survivor myself, like, we're powerless. We were powerless to what happened to us.
But that's addiction talk, because that's Narcotics Anonymous. I'm powerless over my addiction.
No, as a child.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the empowerment part, yes, you are powerless as a child.
But I'm not
that's
powerless
definitely-
anymore.
Exactly. That's not
That's the difference.
what we're teaching our children.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
in my framework, and I just, like, for Empower Me, so I took the 12 steps, and I'm like, this is, obviously this is awesome. This is how I recovered. But I'm like, where's the feminine power in it? Like, where's about the stuff that happened to me? So that's kind of where I found these 16 steps, because it incorporates all of that in there. Like,
Yes.
it says, I now affirm that I have the power to
Yes.
stop depending on substances and things like that. And
Yeah.
so it's almost,
Yeah. Well, it just puts it on its head.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to empower children
Exactly.
with education on how to use their voice
Yeah.
if somebody's making them feel uncomfortable. If they don't want to go over that relative's house, or somebody has made them feel uncomfortable, you have the power to say no. You have the power to come and tell me if someone ever makes you feel uncomfortable, because we want to give children that power, so they don't become powerless. And that's amazing. I mean, what would you say to little Mickey if you were her supporter when she was a little girl?
Girl, open your mouth. Open your mouth.
Yes, Mickey.
I thought about that question when you sent it to me, and I was like, out of all the things I know and I've learned, and the one thing was the one thing that he was telling me not to do, which was, shh, don't tell anybody. No, open your mouth, tell somebody. Because for all the years that festered, and just, within me, and I could have, had a different trajectory in my life if I would have spoken up in that first year and said, listen, this guy is like, he's not okay. He's not safe. Somebody, if I would have said that, because everybody else around me was saying it, but I wasn't saying it. So I could have changed the trajectory of my life, but having so much trust, again, with the trust in somebody who said they had my best interest at heart, So, yeah.
Mickey, I mean, you're incredible. You really are.
Thank you.
And a voice for so many who may not be speaking up. You're a voice to say, this is what we need to do, everyone. And that's why prevention education is so key, so that you can leave a training and know that these are the things that I can do to make sure my little one has a voice and has the power to come to me and say, this person's making me feel uncomfortable, even if it's someone that you know and trust. Let them feel that freedom to come and share that.
And being a safe space doesn't, just because you're a parent doesn't mean you're automatically a safe space. So it's making sure from very early on
that you
have that relationship with your child, that they are telling you things.
Yeah.
And finding out how to become more of a safe space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before anything happens.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's no good saying to a child, oh, you can tell me anything. Well, yeah, you can receive it, but you have to have that kind of a safe relationship with the child where they actually can disclose.
And even learning how to respond to our children.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, my oldest is 27 years old. I came across this guy who's just, and it is on TikTok, but like I'm now taking in like we're always conscious of how we respond to our children and things like that, right? And how we communicate. But like I'm learning new stuff of how I can communicate with my son now, you know. It's one thing that I teach in the trauma classes, like when we think of where we're coming from and how we've raised our children, you know, and we were coming from slavery and colonialism and how we've kind of taken those behaviors of child rearing and now we've brought it into our modern times, you know. And when we think of, you know, I guess kind of how our culture can be, you know, it's not safe. Children should be seen, not heard. There's still that a lot in a lot of families, you know, and if we really change the trajectory of how we parent our kids now, we can change like the health of our island and you know, the trajectory of that. Because, you know, when we think about when I was little, did my parents listen? No, there wasn't a time of parents listening to kids. You was told what to do. Children should be seen, not heard. Adults are talking, leave the room, and all of that went on, right?
Yes.
So when we're teaching, we're told, you know, we got this older generation that knows that, like, or feels that it's not safe to express my feelings because of what I was told when I was younger. And then we're not realizing we were adopting all these behaviors from. And it's from back when we were, our great-great-grandparents and all of that were slaves. And so they had to do what they had to do. So we've carried that. And so, but now it's time for us to look at it and say, you know what? If our children are coming and talking to us, you know, we have to listen.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something totally new in parenting for me.
It is.
You know, like I said, I'm learning as I go along, you know, but understanding, you know, some of the things that happened to me and didn't with regards to my parents being parenting and how that could have changed as well.
Yes.
Because had I felt safe enough to express my voice, then I probably would have spoken up in the first place.
Yeah.
But because I, you know, I live in a community where the culture is very conservative and strict and very much like that, then we actually encourage and enforce non-expression of feelings and safety and all of that.
Yeah.
You know, because we're too busy. We're and now when we look at it, people are working multiple jobs and this. We're too busy, and the child wants to sit, but we have to carve out that time.
Yeah.
Because when we're not, we're telling that child you're not important. Your voice isn't important. Your feelings are important. And so when you're asking them if something happens bad in your life, come tell me. But you've just shown me all of these things are unimportant. So, you know,
Great
we
point.
have to start right from the very and it's not too late. You know, I have a 12-year-old. I'm changing the trajectory now. I'm like, listen, we're gonna do this. You know. Every child is different, but it's our obligation, our responsibility, you know, to be able to
be self-aware.
Yeah.
You know, and the historical, like parenting with unintentional fear.
Yeah.
You know, where, you know, inducing fear in the child.
Oh, yes.
You know, for maybe compliance, for instance.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Or I mean, it was one of my clients in a class one time. They were saying, you know, when the slaves had to be beaten into submission, and when we think of a lot of colored families in Bermuda, I will say it. You know, what's it called? Getting the belt is a normal thing. But when we really think of what we're doing, right?
Yes. Choosing the oleander bush.
We're beating that child into submission. And I'm sure a lot of our parents didn't know back then, right? But the reality of it is what it is. That's why they say, hey, listen, don't take the belt straight to your children now. Like, sit them down.
Yeah.
There's going to be times where you're like, no, I want the belt. But no.
They're not
Sit
going to
down,
be perfect.
Talk to them.
Right.
And try, because this is a real, you know, consequences of us not parenting properly. And that's what we see going on in our
Yes.
Yeah, kids are shut down. They shut down, and then you know, there is no there's no safety.
I have a child who says, "Pause, Mom. Pause before you say anything. Just
Yeah.
pause."
Yeah.
And she's learned that, like, pause.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, sorry. Okay.
Yep.
Well, and
Don't try to
And they
fix.
teach us. And they teach us.
Yeah.
If we listen good enough, they teach us every day as well.
parenting like that doesn't mean that the child isn't going to respond to you. It doesn't mean they're not going to obey you. It just means that, you know, you'll actually have a relationship where there's respect
Yes.
and support
Yes.
Yeah.
and an emotional relationship.
Yeah.
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 And when we think about it, a lot of parents who support those that struggle, they have their own unaddressed trauma.
Yep.
Because we weren't going to see Dr. Peets or Dr. Hancock 40 years ago.
I know.
Right?
It wasn't even spoken about back then.
You just had to survive through it.
Yeah.
You just
You did.
learned and adapted.
You adapted and you did what you knew. You didn't even, sometimes it was unconscious, like it wasn't your conscience. You didn't know. You were just responding from your own
Exactly.
trauma, right? And so this is why the work that the two of you do is so critical to give us the tools that we need to support survivors and to help us be able to support them. I think
help the supporters understand why they're responding the way they're responding.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not about judgment and it's not about shame. It's about, we just want the best version of ourselves and be the best supporter that we can with those that are struggling with childhood trauma and addiction.
Yeah.
Any last words, Dr. Hancock? I always refer to you. Tell me about,
I think,
summing it up.
This is a marathon. This whole journey of, particularly when you've got layers of trauma. So you've got the layer of childhood trauma, you've got the next layer of addiction. Those are two very powerful issues that one person to deal with is a lot. And so the recognition that it is a marathon. It's not a speed race.
Yeah.
And, as Dr. Peets said, it's, you have ups and downs. You have, you take 3 steps forward and you may take 2 back. That doesn't mean you failed, right? And as long as you don't give up, there's always hope.
Yeah.
There's always hope.
Yeah. There's always hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
Thank you.
one tattoo I have is hope.
I love that, Mickey. And don't ever give up on hope, ever.
No.
Fight for your life and your freedom because you are worthy and you deserve it.
Yeah.
And don't listen to the voice that says you don't, because it's lying.
Yeah. I know Carl Jung once said that trauma is from a lack of the empathetic witness. So that's something to digest. Even if we're talking about with regards to sexual abuse, addiction, and we're talking about providing safety and support, so trauma is a lack of an empathetic witness.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sums it up.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here
Thank you
today.
for having me.
For your wisdom and guidance for our community. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Join 14,000 SCARS certified members in Bermuda, and you can help reduce the risk of childhood sexual abuse. Become an advocate and a voice for our children. Get trained, get certified. We offer community and private sessions. Visit scarsbermuda.com to register for training. You'll also find valuable information and resources on our website. Visit scarsbermuda.com. Get certified today. SCARS, Saving Children and Revealing Secrets.